Hello, wonderful people. Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Nawtystep channel. And as you can see, I'm joined by a very special guest today. The first interview in a while on the channel. And here we have the creator of, I think you'll be okay with me saying an infamous video by this point within the scene, the kind of music that is being covered on this channel. All my homies hate Skrillex, the creator, Mr. Timbah.On.Toast. How are you doing, sir? How have you been? And yeah, how are you feeling about the just the general reaction to the video, both good and bad? It's been a couple of months now, hasn't it, since it came out?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So my upload schedule is like very rare. So I've spent all I've had to do over the last 2 months is just watch like that video get like the responses it's gotten.
Mate,
Um,
a million views, a million views now.
yeah,
That's big.
yeah. Well, this is gonna sound like very odd. Because I think it always will when someone's like, well, I didn't expect that many people to see it, but genuinely, like I usually deliver videos to a solid audience of like the subscribers I have, which is like 20K people who are mostly into bit of music heads, but like also into politics and stuff. And they are the audience I expected would watch this video, and it was more like just like a nice video for me to make, which was a break from the stuff that I have to very meticulously research, because this was a video I could do basically off the dome, just thinking of past memories, and
Mm.
that was literally it. Um, so yeah, to watch this be the one out of all the videos I've made that's done numbers is very surprising, but I guess nice to the degree that it shows that I guess something that you're passionate about can kind of that can come across on YouTube, and that maybe is the way to go, following your passions. So yeah, it's been good. I mean, so one of the reasons I want to talk to you today was I got so very much like a split reaction on this video. I feel, and it's a large part of it is because obviously people who like the video typically will like it, move on. People who don't like the video will tell you, they'll leave a comment. So I, as
I
soon
know
as the
all too
video,
well. I know all too well about that. But
yeah.
yeah,
So as soon as the video ascended my usual viewers, and I got the sense it was building in view counts, like the comments started rolling from people who perhaps didn't appreciate like the message of my video too much, and I think instantly there was this. I saw a lot of feedback, and like uh, as I got in contact with you on Twitter because people had said your name in reference to sort of the new waves of dubstep, and that you were the guy that I could speak to who would, be able to give me an insight into what people are listening to now. Um, and what I said to you, like when I messaged you, was this is the thing. I feel like some of the criticism I've been getting is like I'd consider it, not valid, but a lot of it is valid. And I've thought a lot of times since uploading the video about putting like a pinned comment about how so my perspectives might have changed from receiving those bits of feedback. But I thought since there was an offer out there to come on your channel, I was like, this is probably a good time to actually talk about it, address it, and have someone else here who actually knows about the new stuff. Because genuinely, my knowledge of dubstep ends at about what 2013, like whatever
sure.
point it was where it took the turn that it did, and I ducked out. Um, but yeah, no. So I'm really glad we've got the opportunity to talk to each other, and hopefully have a really productive conversation about this.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited for it. Especially as someone who, myself growing up, obviously in the UK, I've also seen that culture firsthand, and I've seen the earlier form of dubstep. I've lived through it, and I've seen what it's become. And now, being in a position where I'm reviewing and covering the music that I'm doing now, I think it's just such a good thing to kind of have someone as well. Obviously speaking for myself, but I very much appreciate your position. Don't worry. I'm gonna quiz you on a lot of things that you've said. That is gonna
I
happen. But
hope so. I hope
yeah,
so, mate.
yeah, it's I very much like. I know and I'm aware of your position too. So it's not just going to be like a bashing or a hating going on here, but yeah, definitely going to be questioning you on that kind of stuff. But yeah, good to know about the different eras and the evolution that's happened, I suppose, and to have
For
a
sure.
conversation from there. But yeah, I think for anyone that I imagine that everyone watching this video will have watched your video, but for those that maybe haven't, how would you summarize it yourself?
All right. So basically, it's a video that is about the first genre of music that I ever loved, uh, which was dubstep. Um, it kind of goes through how dubstep started, when I first heard it, because I wasn't really on the scene, early in dubstep's development. I came in sort of in the latter part of dubstep's first era. Um, Talks about how the scene changed from being quite a dark and brooding sound that represented a lot of a lot of themes of the mid 2000s. So reflected a lot of trends in sort of gritty cinema and film, and sort of encapsulated a lot of like sort of grey London. And then it evolved into this very bombastic, sound design accelerated sort of noise that was more of a spectacle. There was more of an arena filling sound. And I take a very critical approach, I think that's fair to say, of the newer sounds. I mean, I would hope that like in the video you'll see I relate it to my own personal opinions on these things. I try not to give flat out, um, wrong-headed critiques of music based on sort of personal perspective, but obviously my personal perspective on that kind of music and what I liked about dubstep before comes in. So hopefully, from watching the video, what people would get is a sort of a subjective, but informative journey about how dubstep started, how it evolved, and how it got to the point it was at when I left it around 2010.
Hmm. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. That very much. That very much sums it up very well. And if you haven't seen it, then you have to watch it. It's just under an hour, right? And
52 minutes.
52 minutes. It's a solid video. It's a full on YouTube doc, and it's extremely well put together. In my opinion, and I think that kind of inspires my first main question here, which is how long did it take you to research this video, gather the footage that you wanted for it, compile it, order it, and how did you kind of decide, which bits of footage would fit with which bits of information you were giving, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so it's long. Basically, this one, in terms of script writing, I usually spend ages doing research. I usually spend like a month doing research before I even like start writing a script. For this one, the script writing, I was just straight into writing it because it was all in my head and I was just telling it as it happened.
Mm,
So it was literally like a splurge on the page. Did still take me a while. It took me like maybe 3 weeks to write it because you're constantly revising, like, which bits go where, how you summarize it and order it and all those sort of things. But
absolutely. Yeah.
the script writing bit was quick. The footage bit was so long, mainly because I really like using anime clips. You might have noticed this in the doc. I find that anime is just such an expressive and eclectic medium that really you can think of any sort of metaphor you want to project, and you'll find something in anime that looks amazing and tells that metaphor really well.
Mm,
So
mm.
love using anime clips. The problem with that though is that there's no database for searching the specific anime clips you're looking for and what kind of stuff you're looking for. So let's say, for example, I'm thinking of like dubstep open my mind, so I want like an anime clip of a protagonist's brain like swelling, and I know I've seen that before in anime because I watch a lot of anime. But it's like, what anime did I watch that in, and what episode did that particular
Yeah.
visual occur in?
Yeah.
So it was so long just going back through all the different episodes of different stuff I'd watched and trying to find out where things were.
Yeah. Gosh,
Um,
I can imagine.
and then yeah, the easier part was like rave like footage, and I think what's great about YouTube is people have uploaded bare rave footage from different time periods, so that was actually a lot easier. Um, But actually, the parts that those are the parts that I think, if anything, were really nice to watch back when I was watching the video, because I was like, it's kind of like people, let's say everyone who was at dubstep raves from like 2008 to 2010, they've all like uploaded like infrequent clips. I feel like in my documentary I've sort of compiled all of what you can find from that era. So through watching the video, you get a real sense of, like, it's people in crowds filming the videos on
Mhm.
their phones, which I think makes it even better. It's like, you feel like you're part of, like, these nights when they're kicking off. So yeah, so script writing not that long, video editing like a solid month. So altogether like 2 months of like production goes into it.
Which isn't even that long, really. I mean, do you look back on that? Do you look back on that stretch of time and think, that's not actually that long to have put together the video that I did? Or are you still like, yeah, that was long, like that was quite, quite a lot.
You know what, it didn't feel long because it was enjoyable. I think I enjoy the topic, like, so, like, especially when you're like, there's lots of like little interesting visual opportunities to put tunes with like anime clips to like animate them and stuff. Just loved every second of it. That's the problem with video editing. I can happily spend like 10 hours just drilling it. Which, as as I told you, like, if you've got a missus, uh, you've got to balance out your video editing time with your girlfriend time.
You got to be
Anyone out
careful with
there,
that, yeah.
or vice versa. If you're a girl who does video editing, make sure you put in the hours with your boyfriend too, because you're going into that hole for as long as we do. They deserve a bit. Deserve a bit of attention. You got to remember that as you go on into the evenings. Um, so yeah, but it was an enjoyable experience, man.
Was there a particular moment when it comes to, the inspiration for this video, or was it very much a gradual thing and you were just kind of coming to the realization that, yeah, I really want to make this video? Or was it like a sudden, like, oh my God, like, that thing has happened. I have to make this video right now.
Well, so you know what? Like, the whole video is essentially the discourse that was going on in dubstep around 2013, 2014. Like, essentially, like, the video is a time capsule to those arguments that were being had at that time. Um, I think if you make YouTube videos, you've always got ideas in your head. Like, you're always like, well, I need to make a video about this one day. I need to make a video about this. So the dubstep thing was always in my head from the start of when I started having a channel. That
Mm.
one day I'll make a video about that, like, alongside all the other things. Um, and yeah, I don't think there was a particular event, but as you probably know from watching it, it is like, how would you describe it? It was a very cathartic experience making it. It feels like it was like a lot of stuff that had been in my head for a long time. You're saying it because, as I say, like, this is something that any, like, all of the old heads, and actually I think the new heads too who watch your channel can relate to, but from different sides. Is that if you were an old head, you if you talk to people about, you know what your favorite music genre was, there was a certain point where you would say, you know my favorite genre is dubstep, and the next thing would be the person being like, what's dubstep? And you'd be like, yes. And you're like, well, and then you get to frame your own musical interest in exactly the way you want, like, however you want, because
Mm.
they've not heard of it. So you're able to explain it in exactly the terms, exactly what it represents to you, exactly like how deep it is, all these things. And when Skrillex came about, it was like a turning point where suddenly, if someone asked you, like, what's your favorite, like, genre of music, you were like, dubstep. There'd be this look of recognition on their face, like, either, oh, I love Skrillex, or, oh. And it's just like, and it's like, so either, because Skrillex was that kind of artist, he was like Marmite. People either loved him or hated him. And so, as an old head, or as an old dubstep listener, you would have to further explain, either explain that, or you've got a look of disgust on your face. The kind of music I like is not like Skrillex. It's not similar to Skrillex. I don't think it shares a lot of characteristics. Or it'd be even more awkward because they'd be like, I love Skrillex. And then you'd be like, oh, yeah, he's all right. Like, and you'd have to, like,
Oh man.
so, but I think the new heads might face the same thing in the sense that surely people who listen to, like, the new artists now, which again are very sonically dissimilar to Skrillex, or, the genre has moved on from Skrillex. Surely when they say they like dubstep, same reaction that people will associate it with Skrillex, and you then have to explain, if you're particular variation of dubstep is more melodic, or if it's more, you know, calming or deep, you've still got the task of explaining why the thing that you like is different to Skrillex. Is that the
Absolutely.
fact that Skrillex has become this barometer of what everyone thinks dubstep is, and it's more that, I think, that generates the feeling of I guess the feeling of being left behind or put out than the actual music he makes or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. So would you say that it genuinely frustrates you what dubstep has come to be recognized as and kind of, yeah, known as by people, yeah, both within and outside of the scene? Like, I think, like that's I think what people want to get at is like how much is it kind of, um to what degree or extent is it angering you, the fact that this has happened? Because for many, the detractors, when it comes to critiquing your video and whatnot, that's what they will say is that this guy just sounds extremely pissed off and upset that this is now what dubstep is regarded and known as. So I think, yeah, that is what something that people want to know from you. So yeah, is it something that genuinely, yeah, just vexes you, to use a
So
very
so I'll describe my answer chronologically because I felt different ways, right? So so around the time that Skrillex was popping off, bothered me loads, like so much. It was so bothering, and it
sorry, just to say quickly, I've just remembered and realised that I've literally got a poster of him on my fucking wall. So it's just
yeah.
this is
Oh my god, Connor, you
this is
baited me with that, mate.
this is quite a funny video. Like, I just, oh my god, that is bad. But anyway, sorry, carry on. Oh god.
So yeah, so at the time, and also you've got, I think this is what people have to remember. It's really easy now in 2021 to be like, well, different music genres exist. You can listen to what you want. You're not forced to listen to anything you don't like. So get over it. It doesn't matter. Why are you complaining? And I understand that. And it's so easy now that we have a very internet based music culture to think in this way, because the way that people enjoy music, the way that people experience music, there's diversified streams for everything. You can go to wherever you want, go to whatever platforms. There's usually content creators that will offer up for your specific taste of music what you want. But when I was in the dubstep raves back in like that 2007 to 2010, it wasn't like that. Like it
Mm.
was mainly like it was club centric and it was DJ centric. So if basically your connection to music would be going to clubs. I used to go to like in Nottingham we had Monster on Tuesdays, we had Stealth and Rescue Friday, Saturday, we had Blueprint on Saturday. You could go to like, so I was going to dubstep nights like 3 nights a week at times, like sometimes more, like Bass Lace. There was loads of different nights, and you'd be constantly there, like you'd be constantly in the clubs. So when the brand of like sort of brostep, like Skrillex, Dat Sick, Flux Pavilion emerged, it wasn't like this thing where it's like, well, just don't listen to it. It's like the clubs that I am in, that music is taken over. Like it's like I can compare it to if you live in the UK and you're a boy and you don't like football. Like it's similar to that feeling where you might not feel strongly one way or the other about football, but it's a sport that's going to be shoved in your face quite a lot. You're going to be expected by other boys to know something about it. You're going to be expected to talk about it. You're going to be expected to experience football and get involved in football conversations a lot, to the point where suddenly your opinion is like, I hate football. I hate football. Even though you maybe wouldn't be bothered otherwise. And I think it's the same thing with Skrillex and the bro step kind of around dubstep. I could easily listen to Scream, Banger, Zombie, Burial in my house. But suddenly the spaces which were my connection to the music were overrun with this, with not only a new sound, but it was the same sound in every night. It got to the point where, this is the point I make in my video, it wasn't like DJs were playing a mix of that and the deeper stuff. And
Mm.
no, every DJ was playing that. So yeah, around about that time, I genuinely hated Skrillex. I was very, very upset. Like, but then when it got to make it, that's obviously like 10 years have gone by. I got to making the video, and I was like, oh, I'm not not bothered about this. I just want to tell the story. But then in the process of making the video, all the feelings came rushing back. So yeah, I was like, there were points making the video where I was like, oh, that bummed me out again. So people, people think I'm like a butthurt boomer. Like, they are correct. Like, it's true. I was during the point of making the video, and I think that comes across. But
You're owning it. You're definitely owning it, aren't you? You're owning
yeah, yeah.
the boomerness of what you've done here for sure.
Yeah, but I think this is. I think this is the only thing I think you got to remember is that back then it wasn't a case of just choose to listen to something else. It was literally a sound that you weren't fond of in a particular genre destroying your genre. Like that. That is what it was.
Oh, yeah, and there are a lot of people who are following what I'm doing, and they've called your video elitist, for some of the things that you've been some of the things that you've said in the video. And whilst there is a definite part of me that thinks, we'll get onto some of the things that you say in the video, and like, they go quite far in terms of the kind of forthright nature of the opinion and whatnot. But I do hope that people kind of recognize as well that, if you make very clear in the video, how much, how much attachment you have to that culture, that music, the fact you grew up with it, establishing communities and groups of friendships and all that kind of thing with that music and everything that you got from it. To have that, suddenly, you know, not so much taken away. I assume it was more of a kind of, well, I mean, you're saying that in the sets themselves, it was just, loads of, bangery dubstep as opposed to the deep stuff and not really a mix. But I just hope that people realize that, you know, if you love something so much, which I think everyone can resonate with, to some degree, we all love stuff, and then suddenly that's replaced completely, then it's going to affect you somewhat. So, you know, I think there's a lot of room for understanding the position that you're in and that you've come from. And again, myself being someone who's witnessed that, that earlier stage of it, I was very young and I wasn't actually allowed. But you have illegal raves and all of that kind of stuff. So you see it. I've seen it firsthand as well. So I just think there's a lot of scope for understanding as well the position that you're in if you are someone who is quite vehemently against what you're saying and the way that you presented what you're saying.
Well, this
Um,
is this is the other thing that I think. Well, maybe you will come on to this in a future question, but certainly on the like elitism thing, like I complete. So basically, we all know that logically, no music is superior to any other music. We know this. It's a subjective thing, and I know. So, and everyone will know if you're taking it into pure logical arguments about art and how it's critiqued and where it sits and all these things, you literally can't declare anything better like than anything else. It's only like how you relate to it. Um, so this is the thing. So in my video, I think I try to keep it as it's my subjective opinions on these things. However, I think what throws a lot of like mud into the situation is the fact that I mix that quite subjective journey with dubstep with factual commentary about like chronological developments. So it's like it does come across that I am presenting these subjective opinions
that's
as
fact, yeah.
fact.
Mm.
I think that's part of it, and I completely understand that, and I also, in terms of like the way people respond as well, I completely get sort of the adversarial nature people have if they dislike my video because I've set that up, right? Like if I made a purely like balanced video where I was like, so this is a type of music called brostep which took over, and there was more of it being played around this time, and this was the kind of music that maybe it wasn't played as much. I didn't express subjective opinions either way, and people came at me being like, "Oh, you boomer." I'd be like, "Well, this is bad faith. Like, this it's not called for."
Yeah,
But I've already in my video with the name of it, like all my homies hate Skrillex. I'm already like setting up an adversarial relationship with anyone that might be a Skrillex fan, with anyone that might listen to the new stuff. So I understand the give and take nature of, if people want to come at me with equally sort of quite vitriolic stuff, it's completely reasonable and in line with the dialogue I've set up through my video. So do you know what I mean? It makes complete sense to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that all makes sense for sure. But I think we should maybe run through, a bit of the feedback that you have got on the video,
I'd
both
love
good and
to.
bad. Just a couple of viewpoints that maybe stick out to you. First off, stuff that you disagree with, stuff that has been leveled against the video that you've read. This could be anyone watching this interview right now, this video. But yeah, just stuff that you genuinely, you just feel like that kind of viewpoint, maybe you're not quite on board with, and that you feel, yeah, happy to refute or kind of just explain, if you will.
Yeah, I mean the first, I think the first and the most prevalent one is the one that I've addressed, which is music is music. Listen to what you want, and it's like I get it. Like, it's true. You can listen to what you want, but if the logical like end of that is so criticizing things isn't valid because all music is subjective, then it's like you're setting up a really weird precedent where suddenly like no art can be prioritized by a person above it or criticized by a person for any particular reason. So I'd say that one, and that's the one I probably get most often. Uh, the second one is this one. This annoys me so much. People saying burial isn't dubstep. I hate that comment so much. And there's a reason for this. I know why people are saying it, and it's because since Burial emerged, so he emerged, you're making tunes in 2006. Since Burial emerged, people have retrospectively fitted his music to a new category of music, which they have termed future
Future
garage.
garage.
Yes.
Yeah.
So people are like, he's an idiot. He thinks Burial's dubstep. And it's just like, okay, future garage, the term came around in 2009. Like, we were all listening to Burial for 3 years, like before that term emerged, and everyone was like, he was released on the Hyperdub label, which is a dubstep label. Code 9, when he talked about it, said like, Burial captures the spirit of the dubstep movement. Burial himself was affiliated with dubstep artists. Like, just because there's a new category that's emerged more recently, it doesn't make Burial not dubstep. I think he sits as far away from most garage as he does from dubstep. And not only that, but if I think the reason why people say that is because Burial's beats have this, like they've got like that
Yeah,
that
the,
pop
the
on
the
the
garage kind of layout and structure when it comes to
yeah,
like
the structure
percussion and
where
whatnot.
it's not half step. It's like on the off swing beats and
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
So that's the reason why they say that. But loads of dubstep was like that. Like, Horsepower Productions tunes were all like that, and they were dubstep. Um, we had like lots of scream tunes that use those rhythms. Mallet and Digital Mystics made tunes that were like that. So if the argument is like music that has a swing beat isn't dubstep, it's future garage, then you're taking so much dubstep that everyone knew as dubstep and pulling it into this new genre which wasn't even about at the time. So that is one that I wanted to address. I think that's it's not really to do with my videos much, but a comment I've seen so often. I'm just like, whoa, so wrong.
Oh, you're getting me going. You're fucking, really grinding my
It's like,
gears.
oh, I want to get this comment and just.
But do you think, because I've, like, I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone that doesn't love his music. Like, the Discord that I run, you know, it's full of, it's all people that are, there because of the music that I'm mostly talking about. The heavier stuff, the more mechanical stuff, the stuff with the overlord alien kind of introductions that you so gleefully shat on in the video, which was very funny. I love that shit, but I can imagine why you find it a bit. But anyway,
Yeah,
that the people who appreciate that music, they are the people on that Discord. But everyone is in complete unanimous agreement that his music is incredible. It kind of transcends description almost. um do you think there's scope for saying that it wasn't even a particular genre of music. It was just its own kind of style, burial. Not that burial was the genre, but it doesn't strictly fall into garage or dubstep or two step, whatever. It's just its own thing that no one has actually been able to kind of imitate or just kind of mimic really in any way.
I agree with you. As in it definitely like sits on the borderline of a lot of things, but then also I think as humans we do seem to have this inherent desire to categorize things,
Yeah,
and those categories I would say are useful. And so even if you want to say, for example, burial sits on the borderline between garage and dubstep, that's still a category. That's still
yeah,
categorizing
okay.
it. Um, so yeah, I do agree. Sits on the borderline, but I think a lot of artists do, right? Like I mean, uh, someone like Igloo Ghost, for example, he sits in between like sort of footwork, drum and bass, like lots of different things. But it's still good to be able to put words to the places they do sit in, right?
For sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, can't can't disagree with that. Um, but yeah, I think moving on now to the I suppose the comments that you do agree with, and that you're like, it can be in favor of the video, and it can be supporting what you've said in it, or it can be stuff that is completely disagreeing and just refuting what you're saying. And you're like, reflecting on what I said in the video and that script that took me just so long to put together and write and all of that. Maybe I shouldn't have worded it like that, or maybe that was a bit strong. Or I suppose also, I mean, this is like another little offshoot. But was there any of it that you wrote kind of intending for it to be for it to kind of get a reaction, or was that genuinely? Are you genuinely calling it meaningless absurdity and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so this is a really good one. This is something I've thought about the most because I think it's more like this. It's like when I was writing that video, I invested lots of time and effort into finding the right terminology and the exact right phrasing for all the music that I liked. Like, as in, the old school dubstep classics and the stuff that emerged like a little bit later on, but I was really into. But it was once people started coming back on the way I'd worded stuff, I was like very there's several mistakes that I made that I would reword if given the chance. So meaningless absurdity, yes, that's one of the bits where it's sort of like when I watch it. So when I was writing the script, I just wanted to establish that the old school dubstep was reflective of dark grey London, and the new school dubstep was something else, which I called meaningless absurdity. But if given the chance now, I think I would say something more along the lines of like bombastic sound design, or something like festival energy, or what do you know what I mean? There's a better way of saying it than or it doesn't mean anything, because it clearly does, and it clearly the people who follow it, uh, I guess another point which people brought up, which I think is completely valid, is there is something about Skrillex's music, right? He's
I
not
mean, you'd have
just
to tell me. I've got a bloody poster of him on my wall. Like, you'd have to tell me. Like,
yeah.
but yeah,
So
saying
so
it to all the other people who are watching, of course. But yeah,
yeah. So I mean, so Skrillex, like, for as much as I wasn't fond of his music, it probably would have benefited my video to acknowledge what people did see in his music, because I do feel I know a bit of what that is. A big part of it is experimental sound design. Like, if you're a producer, that it's really easy for people to listen to something and say, "Oh, well, it's just a bleh," or "It's just a," and they'll just like do like a sort of mouth imitation of the noise, as if it's like, as if it's just like you pressing a button, and it's very easy. Like, as soon as you open up like an audio production program, you're in a synth and you start like playing around with it, it sounds pants instantly. It's not, and you instantly, whatever you might think about making music, it's so much harder than you think. It's a lot of like tweaking, it's a lot of
true.
effort, it's a lot of like messing with lots of different things for hours. And Skrillex, for whatever reason, was able to get sounds out of them VSTs that were far more like rough and far more I don't know how you describe it, just angular than what anyone else could make at the time. And that is something, right? It has, so it might not have the same aesthetic value or the same sort of tonal value as some of the other tunes that I liked, or like, you know, the melodies that I liked and the way I liked them to be arranged. But there is something to Skrillex's music there that he pulled off clearly better than everyone else. And that was obviously what brought the people towards his sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like perhaps it would have been a good idea to acknowledge what those things were in my video, rather than I kind of almost deliberately skirted past the positives one might have because I wanted to tell my story of how it ruined the genre that I liked. So yes, I think that's a completely valid criticism, that I didn't acknowledge enough the actual so not what I find positive, but the things that people would find positive about Skrillex's music, and that did, you know, single him out from what was a very crowded, you know, genre. Like, it wasn't like Skrillex was the only one making brostep. Loads of people were failing to make the kind of brostep that Skrillex was making at the time. The other there was another wording thing that I made at the start. Yes. So I said, as it exists now in 2021, it's the most stupid, shitty, obnoxious genre.
Here we
Blah,
go.
blah, blah.
No, hang on. I can actually read it out because I've actually noted
Yep.
this one down. So here we go. Um, is a joke being played only so that people will laugh. One
Yeah.
of the most obnoxious, tackiest, and stupid genres of music that I've ever heard. So
Yes.
yeah,
So
why don't you just go ahead and, and explain that one?
so this I feel was very dumb. I feel like the way I worded that was terrible. Because I think what I had specifically in my head, and you might be able to understand this with better context, is as an old head who stopped listening in 2010. When I say now, the kind of dubstep I'm thinking of is that 2011, 2012 Skrillex, Bangarang. Like, that's my that's my frame of reference, right? And my frame of reference is that at that point, it was just meme videos on YouTube. It was an influx of old people laugh at dubstep, young children laugh at dubstep. I play dubstep to like some old person and see how they react to it. That was the landscape, you know, when I ducked out. However, this is why it was stupidly worded in my video, because I should have said, as dubstep was at one point in like this moment in time, it was the memes and it was this. But obviously 10 years have gone by since then. Like, it's a lot, do you know what I mean? A long time has gone by, and a long time for dubstep to evolve beyond that point and again transcend to something, you know, maybe incorporating some of the sounds that Skrillex had, but still a different entity to what it was. So I felt like that was sort of factually wrong, the way I said that, and, you know, poorly worded. I mean, whether I would have said the most this and yes, the scathingness of the things I said, it's really hard. This is going to be really hard to believe, especially because I called it like all my homies hate Skrillex and like all this stuff. But I genuinely thought this video would sit with my subscribers and it wouldn't go anywhere else. My genuine like vision for this video as I was making it was, my subscribers will get to see what the music was like that I enjoyed, and they'll get to see my perspective on this. And obviously I knew that some people who liked Skrillex would land on it, but I thought they would be the vast minority. I thought they'd be like, and maybe they wouldn't watch it, maybe they would go away, like, you know, very quickly.
You thought
However,
wrong.
yeah, and obviously at the point where it blows up, you've made something for like with some people in mind who are going to watch it, and suddenly it's like so many people who it's sort of like out of your control who's going to watch it. And this I think this was the thing that changed my mind very early on these things, was that a lot of the Skrillex fans really nice, like just so nice in the comments, like so nice, like as in there was just so many. I mean, the vast majority of people who seem to have come from the new school of dubstep, which I was sort of like trashing like very hard, seem to come in and just be like, oh, I really appreciate this perspective on things. I like Skrillex, but it's really good to know the history and the roots of the genre. And there was one comment in particular that just like, it was someone who said, He's like, oh, I totally see where you're coming from. I totally like get your perspective on this and how like sad that must have felt for you, like with what happened and the way the new sound took over. He's like, but I really just wish as dubstep heads we could all just sort of learn just to get on with each other at this point and appreciate what happened, appreciate the new stuff, and all of us just kind of be more like a dubstep family. And I read that and I was like, oh man, like you've totally like pierced through like this whatever outer casing I had against Skrillex fans. Like
Mm.
it was just it was such a nice thing to read, so nicely put. Um, and also I don't want to give the vibe that you have to be like nice to me in order. Like it's also very valid to say you stupid boomer, you know what you're talking about. That's very valid.
Yeah.
Uh, but that comment in particular, I was just like, now that I've read that, yeah, I feel bad. I feel bad. I feel like I've been on the wrong side of the pitchforks on this one. So so yeah, I feel like I feel like my perspective changed pretty quickly on those things. It did make me reflect. You know, I'm talking like maybe 4 days after release is when I started reflecting on this stuff.
Mm.
That I'd worded things in a way which I wouldn't do again. Basically, if I
Sure.
was to make the video again.
Right. And so I suppose all of that considered, and knowing that there are people like myself who, my whole life is my whole life has become reviewing and examining this music, extricating all the little details and appreciating them and reviewing it properly and giving it, credibility and that kind of thing, when it hasn't been there before, previously known as, basically what you were saying, festival music, party music, and that there are now, people who are, really, giving it the time of day and properly examining it, as I said. Does that make you feel like does that kind of in any way affect how you're viewing not so much the scene but the music itself? Does it kind of push you to feel like, oh, maybe I might give some of it a bit of a try and see if there's any of it I might like? Because it's not
Yeah, man.
just, it isn't by any means like, it is in no way just the overly loud, abrasive, kind of alien themed, hyper brostep kind of vibe. There's a lot of stuff that is still that heavy and still that, well, quite, abrasive, but a lot more toned down. And then there's stuff that has a lot more musicality to it. And then there's all sorts basically. So yeah, I suppose on the back of reading those comments and kind of knowing that it can be appreciated in that deep way, I suppose. Has that changed your overview of the music generally, I suppose?
Yeah, man. Yeah, because I think this is the thing, right? The whole inspiration, if you like, to making that video and the whole driving force of that video is how much it stings to be mischaracterized. Because I was an old school dubstep listener who was just like mischaracterized suddenly as a Skrillex listener, which I hated. I hate being put in a box that I felt I didn't fit in. But essentially, I've been doing that. Like, I put all new dubstep in a box. And for any listeners who know there's a sonic range there, who know there's intricacies that go beyond, the widespread connotation of what it became, in the minds of in the zeitgeist of our time, if you like, you know, I've done them dirty in the same way, right? Like I've put them in a box that they don't really fit in. And yes, I have watched some reviews on your channel, just because I was keen to see like some of the new sounds. Um, now, so I'd say in the new school, right? So
Here we go.
so what I still dislike or still can't really, it doesn't really like sit that well with me is I guess the theatricality of the intros. It's still it still feels a bit like overblown. However, on the sound design front and the drops and the way they go in, I found that in the new strand of dubstep there is a part that I like, which is some of it hits the same sort of feeling in me that like have you listened to EPROM?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
that's
Ephraim.
sort of like yeah. So that's sort of very like razor sharp but wonky sort
Mm.
of feeling. And I've noticed some of the tracks that you were listening to hit that, and I was like, you see that, if like if someone like Flying Lotus played that or Gaslamp Killer played that in a set, I'd be like, yes, yes, this is hard. Like this is sick. So yeah, I think there's definitely like, I don't know, maybe someone if someone who knew a lot about it could like take me through like I reckon there would be some strands of the new that's now dubstep that I would be able to completely get on board with. And so yeah, I did, I think I did mischaracterize it, and I did have sort of slightly wrong idea about what it was, and it's mainly stemming from the fact that I assumed no evolution since 2012, right?
It's very interesting about the theatricality, because it just like, I think that point in particular just makes clear the fact that, anyone can like anything, and the stuff that different people like just differs entirely, because that stuff, that aspect of it is exactly like what got me hooked from the beginning.
Mm.
Like when I first got into it, I was watching a lot of horror films and just intergalactic sci-fi kind of stuff. And then suddenly, someone like Skrillex comes through, and I am seeing the images from those films just in musical form. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm.
the music is just so accurately reflecting another medium and form of art that I love so much, that I'm just like, I'm instantly like, I'm there, and they just pair together so well. So for
It does
me,
seem like that. Yeah, you
yeah,
like the
go on.
landscapes, don't you? Yeah, it seems to me like this when you're reviewing it, is that you like sort of the immersiveness of like you often describe things in very vivid imagery. I've noticed you're like I'm on a grassy bank and I'm like escaping from a Zelda dungeon, coming in Hyrule Plains. Like I've noticed this, so
I'm being
that does
outed.
come
I'm being
across.
outed right now. I'm being baited out. I love it. I love
I,
it.
but yeah, no, go on, go on. You were saying.
Oh no, just so for me, like I that's kind of my way of explaining that, like my love for that aspect of it, that being the driving force of my love and passion for the music overall. People that watch this channel, they might hear what you've just said about that, and they might say to you, oh well, the music that you listen to is so like, boring, and the ideas don't change very much, and it's so like monotonous, and it just doesn't change enough. Like when's something new gonna come in? Like how would you explain your love for, I mean, you do it in the video quite well, or very well, but I don't know, for anyone that might not have watched it, or for people that want you to maybe explain that a bit more, like what
Oh
would you
right.
say for why you love the kind of dubstep that you love?
So basically, this is I mean this is the main thing I say is that they are correct in the sense that yeah, it doesn't develop. Like it stays roughly the same from drop, But however, like this is the other thing though, is that there's another misconception here of sorts. Because people instantly think of like, Mala, Loafer, uh, who are the dark, murky grey producers, and that is the sound of like early dubstep. That's like unmistakable sound. What I wanted to show in my video, especially, was the fact that by 2009, it really wasn't that. Um, it's the fact that we had like James Blake doing like amazing, like really well crafted, like melodic sort of. Like, I think they called it post dubstep at the time, but like R&B infused dubstep. Like Joker's Purple sound and like this kind of like cyber sort of feel to it. Um, there was like there was a lot of techno sound in dubstep, and it was more the fact that you could pick and choose between those flavors. All of those tracks, if you listen to them, on their own, they didn't change that much. As in structurally, I think they still stick to that message that I had, where it's like you've got a first drop, you've got like a little variation, you've got a second drop. But you could pick and choose, and the nights were very, as in the almost like the dynamism of the nights, which you guys could find in a single tune, came from the mixing of lots of different flavors of this thing. Lots of different flavors of this dubstep as it was evolving, and it was more like when the new sound came in, all these other strands kind of stopped being made because people were all just exploring the intricacies of the brostep sound. Like, how much can we push this? Can we do like the high pitched like baseline squeal? And it was more just like it then became more like an exploration of that particular area of sonic design, I guess. But yeah, so I'd say it's almost like that. The variation, if there was any to be had in the old dubstep movement, came from like the mixes, came from the variety that you'd hear in mixes. I think also now you could make the argument that, back then the way we experienced the music, if we were listening to it on our computers, we had a site called Bear Files that was like it looks like a 4chan board or something. You go on it and it's just got like bare mixes, right? So you go on it, you're on dial-up internet, taking you back. So you you go on these things and they're just bare mixes, like, so it would be sort of like somewhat. So you wouldn't know who the guys were who were making them. You wouldn't know anything. You just download mixes and you just listen to the whole mix. And sometimes you'd like the flavor of the tunes. So you'd hear tunes constantly in mixes. Whereas I think now, electronic music as a whole has moved more in the direction where people do listen to releases. Like you buy singles and you listen to those singles. So if you think about it, if you're experiencing music in a mix, there's less impetus on every song to vary that much, because it's going to be embedded within loads of other tunes, and that's the format that DJs know they're making the tunes for. Whereas now DJs are like, yeah, they're going to, like, people are going to download my music, it needs to be like spectacular. If I'm going to impress the EDM crowd, it needs to have loads of like sonic variation, loads of like cool stuff going on throughout. So it's almost like it's a different mentality for music, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's just, I mean, yeah, it's just a different environment and a different, I suppose, just a different experience altogether. And that is how the differences in enjoyment are had. Sorry,
And
do you want
how is the yeah? Like I was gonna ask you, like,
to?
what's the club scene like for the new dubs? Like, I don't know anything about this either. Like, how does it go down? Where does it happen? And like,
When you say how did it happen, like, do you mean like how did it actually
so
come about? Do you mean in this country or the
so we're
States or?
talking we're talking pre-COVID, right? So when clubs were open, uh, what are the big centers for the new school dubstep sound? Like, back in my day, we had like Bristol, London as the sort of epicenters.
Mm.
Uh, I'm curious to know, like, when people are like, well, the holy grail of new dubstep now, and where and what kind of stuff we'd think about going to, like, what would it be?
I mean, the unfortunately, I think we had a bit of a we had quite a fruitful period in the middle of the 2010s where there were quite a lot of what you would call modern dubstep, or like the evolved form, as it were, quite, or brostep, whatever you want to call it. I know that you would want to call it that. But the we had quite a lot of shows that were going on in the middle point of the 2010s, and it's kind of dissipated a little bit in the last few years. I think the boom in America has just become stronger and stronger and stronger, and the new wave of dubstep, which has been coined by many as rhythm music, which was actually a big part of the formulation of dubstep originally, which has made a big comeback in this more kind of commercialized version, if you will. That was happening in the US. So with it being so strong there, you're going to get, well, we did get artists just practically going there pretty much entirely. We're talking about the US and Canada as well, and like Australia. Those are kind of, I think, people can prove me wrong about this, but those are the main countries where it was kicking off, and then also countries in Asia and whatnot. But in England, it's very much quelled. Like, it's died down. You get a dubstep show maybe every 3 or 4 months, like a proper one. But there have been shows at Printworks. We've had shows at Ministry of Sound quite often, and they're big shows. And like, what's so great is that it's almost good in a way that they're quite rare, because everyone there. The community is like great. It's strong. You see all the people there that you love and know, but practically everyone. And then it's basically just a good way of people meeting up and kind of just they're good events for that, basically. But they are quite sparse at the moment. There
Mm.
are
Well,
there are organisations and groups out there trying to perk it back up a bit, but yeah, at the moment it is quite not dead, but
it's fertile ground for a new thing. I think, like, this is what you see with, like, don't know if you've got any friends who listen to Gabba.
I mean, kind of ironically, but they still do. So I'm like, do you actually like it, or are you taking the piss, or so?
But like, So this is what you see in like I guess you could call them like alien genres like gabba and psytrance and these ones that really they float under the surface of all the other electronic genres, as in but the people that like that music, they are so into it that you put a gabba night on in like Leeds and people will come from like halfway across the country. They'll travel to go to these events. They'll get hotels and they'll like go. And this is I think this is like almost for these, especially now as music gets more diversified as it does and people's tastes get more and more specific to what they particularly want, that might be the model I think for those scenes now. Because I mean I sit in England with I think what you've described there with like the new dubstep sound, I think it's very similar to what I have as a, you know, I like that LA Beats EPROM sound in the UK. There is not anything like you in order to see that sort of music, you have to wait for EPROM to physically come to the UK and like try and catch him in London or something. But I will go, like I will travel, you know, I'll go on the train and I'll stay over in London. I think that's what it kind of has to become now if we're going to support like a club sort of movement now. And I think, but
100%.
at the same time, I think you need the clubs. I think you need the nights out. Like it's so important for people, as you say, like meeting each other. For DJs feeling inspired to make beats, like for all these things, like you see what works well with crowds. So you know, I think it's almost like that scene can still happen, but we need to fight for it a lot more than what we used to.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. 100%. And yeah, I mean, we do get exactly that. You know, the people that I'm seeing every time that I'm going to these events, they're from, you know, they're from the north, they're from, you know, Nottingham as well, you know, Birmingham, just Scotland, Wales, just different parts of the UK altogether. And it's that thing, as you said again, of just, you know, traveling, staying overnight somewhere, getting in a hotel, all of that kind of stuff, because people do it because they fucking love the music. Do you know what I mean? And like, I definitely feel like, you know, kind of like what you're saying. There does have to be more of it for sure. I mean, maybe we can start a night, mate. Maybe we should fucking
It's
get
always
something
like a
together.
sound clash. It's a sound clash every
Mate,
time.
we can
Like
have
it's
different
like
rooms. We can have different rooms, see what happens, or we can just find a fucking midway point.
it's constantly dub for dub, constantly dub for dub. Like I'm just like, so it's like one song gets played and then we roast each other, and the next one gets played. It's a completely different
Oh
vibe, and it's a
my!
roast. It's constantly dub for dub and roast in between, like constantly.
I'd be game. I'd be keen. You know, there'd be a bit of sorting out to do, but you know, I'm back in
Yeah,
it. I'm back in it. But
that would be funny. That would be funny.
could you imagine yourself ever going to a night out, an event that is playing the kind of music that I'm covering, or do you think, just be completely honest, would it be too much for you? And that would be completely understandable, because I know exactly where you're coming from. You know, I've actually had it with other kinds of music myself, where I've enjoyed what it was in the past, and it's become something completely different, and I'm like, that is slightly annoying, and it's just, you know, different in the exact kind of wrong ways, I suppose, which is kind of what you've been explaining in your video and whatnot. But yeah, could you imagine that? Could you imagine yourself ever, even if it's just to appreciate, or if someone like myself is like bringing you along and we're like, you know, trying to introduce you to it a bit more and kind of get you into it maybe and show you why it works for us so much? Could you do it?
Yeah. So basically, here's what I'd say. For all that, you know, I was displeased back then with the way the direction dubstep took. I still prefer like radical sounds to boring music. So I so when I say it, like yeah, I wouldn't see like a new dubstep night and be like, oh yeah, I'm hitting that up. Like absolutely. I mean, I'd rather go and sink like 5 pints at like a new dubstep night than go to some sort of like disco. Or, do you know what I mean? Some genre where randomly
You're
I'm
not a fan of disco.
am
You're not a disco fan, clearly.
I was about to say I'm going into more strong opinions, so there might be like people that like this in your audience, but like, so
I'm a massive disco fan, so you're just
like,
continually like pissing me off here. You just get it at me. Come on, just keep it coming, mate. Come on.
so like these genres, which just like I don't know, like very very slow techno and disco. which randomly, I'm with people and they're like, "This is so good! Oh my god, oh my god!" And I'm just like, Like I'm like, it's like we're getting like a build up and then like a nothing, and then you don't even realize the next tunes. But I just feel kind of bored at them
Mm,
nights. So like, for all that like new dubstep might not be to my taste, I'd rather like sink 5 pints and go to a night like that than like these other kind of more, I don't know, like I don't know what you'd call them, like more soft electronic like music
right. Yeah. Yeah.
forms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll say, and yeah, I would. I mean, yeah, my I've been to Gabba nights. I've been to Psytrance nights.
Oof.
I
Oh my.
when we were
Woof.
in when we were in Sheffield,
That's intense.
the biggest crew were Off Me Nut, who like they're like mad like happy hardcore bass line. So when have you seen Bangface lineups?
Oh my word. I cannot believe that you've just brought that up. I've never like
Yeah.
that festival is like it's like a joke between me and three of my mates, right? And I've
Yeah.
never heard anyone ever mention it or utter it in any way before. That's honestly incredible. It's the kind of thing where you're like a lot of people go to it, but you don't. I don't feel like people actually know what it is, or like it's a bit of a myth. Like it doesn't actually happen. You look at the videos, you're like, Jesus Christ, like is that an actual thing?
So
It's just
basically,
mad to
like,
hear you say that, but yeah,
no, Bangface. Basically, if you look at the lineup, like DJ Scotch Egg, SpongeBob SquareWave,
yeah,
uh, like I don't know what they call it, Tina Turntables, like all these people, they're all like in Off Me Nut. They're all from Sheffield. They all go down to Bangface every year. It's like their big, like sort of dance event.
mm,
And you know, I love going to nights that they put on. Like they were
yeah,
just
yeah,
like it. I'd rather like so they play like mad bass lines. Everyone's like, "Wah!" Like I'd rather go to things like that where people are like mad for it, and you kind of even as like an observer who's not maybe not like peeping every single tune, uh, you get kind of buzzed into like yeah. Whereas if I'm in like a techno crowd or something, I almost feel like they're as bored as me. They're not. They're loving it, but like more, it seems more introspective love of the genre rather than a genre like bassline where people are like vibing and like
hmm.
showing it. So
So,
yeah, I mean,
so you
I'm
like the
more.
energy. You like the energy. You like the
I'm an energy guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
energy
for
guy.
sure. Like I need beats to have that weight, like a punch, like for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't knock it. I'm here like kind of um almost questioning like how it's a thing. When you look at you've probably seen the videos. If you haven't been to Bangface yourself, have you?
I will. I
You
will at
will.
some
You
point.
definitely gonna do it. Gosh, I
Fam, I
mean,
get I get invited to Bangface like every year.
fucking
Okay,
hell,
it's got
mate.
it's got to happen at some point.
If you're getting invited, then yeah, you absolutely have to go. But unlike it just it looks incredible. It looks like the ultimate kind of enjoyment and fun. Like if you like that music, and it's the
Yeah.
music that is just so full on and so hyper and so like off the chart, off the wall, like just mad. Then you have just got to go full out and just like appreciate it to the full. And that is exactly
Well,
what that
also,
festival is like.
the, these are people who only get to enjoy that music at Bangface as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what you got to think. So everyone's like a Bangface, like, oh my god, Gabba, every day, all day, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I mean, we've been talking a while here. I suppose, is there anything that you want to cover or talk about that we haven't yet that you kind of want to go over, or any questions that you might have coming from my perspective, or yeah, just anything that you want to go over a bit
So
more?
I'm gonna put out a request to your viewers. Like you've all heard the strand of your music that I might be feeling, right? So especially if you know EPROM, right? So you can in your head like rifle through your collections, be like, what sounds like EPROM that Timbar might enjoy? Put them in the comments. I'm happy to go through, have a listen. Maybe there's a new school dubstep producer out there that's like, this is my jam. Uh, so yeah, and also, uh, I guess I'll just say, like, I'm sorry for hating on your music.
No apology needed, man. No apology
I'm
needed. But
sorry.
please carry on with the apology. But no apology needed. But please like carry on.
I'm sorry if if you felt like I mischaracterized your music. I feel like you've largely been a very positive force in the comments of my video, and I feel like perhaps that video has enabled me, and the reception I've got from it all being part of the same package, has enabled me to finally feel a bit of closure and let go of some of that boomer rage that I had back then. I'm in a different place now to when I made the video, and so I think that's maybe something to take away. Um, However, the video will always still be the video with the same words in it, because I don't want to lose the ad revenue. So, uh,
Of course.
but
Of
yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
so I'll just put out that overwhelming thank you to the new school dubstep community for largely being nice. And if you're the commenter who left that comment about us being a dubstep family, you in particular, don't know if we'll find him or her, but if they're there, you know, um, big force in the last 2 months of my life. That person.
Amazing. That's such a beautiful thing to hear. There might be people who are just followers of my channel and who haven't actually checked out your channel yet. So it's quite an eclectic mix of videos you've got going on there. So I
Random as
suppose
hell, man.
how would you how would you summarize kind of what you want to do on your channel, what it's about? How would you sell it basically? Because there are going to be people who are just obviously going to go straight to your channel, check it out. So yeah, how would you sell it?
I mean, I would say I give the brief description of on my channel. It's videos about politics and culture. I mean, the cultural stuff is like stuff I'm into, like music. And I've not had much time for that because of all the politics stuff. The politics was what drew me to YouTube. It's what made me feel like I needed to start speaking out on issues. I don't think I need to mention what side of the political compass I am here. I think if you go to my channel, it'll be fairly clear. But I feel very strongly about the issues I make videos on. Um, in terms of like making content, I think you've always with YouTube, you've got to keep it fun for you, and that necessarily means just doing whatever you feel the most strong about at that particular time. For me, it's constantly a mix of political stuff and then cultural stuff. And I enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
cultural stuff more, but I often feel the political stuff is quite important to talk about. Or, well, this video needs to show this to people. I've got a video where I debunk a conspiracy theory, uh, which I kind of tie into like the prevalence of conspiracy theories at this moment in time we're living through right now. So I think anyone who makes content will relate to this. There's a chase you can do where, for example, I might come off this recent video I've made, which has been the most popular, thinking, "Wow, I should make more videos." But I don't really think like that. I think it's very fluky what videos do well and what don't. You have to really just, if you're going to keep it fun for yourself, which is the main thing to avoid disappointment, burnout, all the things that come with making stuff on YouTube, you have to just do the things that in that moment you want to do and you feel strongly about. Whatever views you get, doesn't matter. Just move on to the next thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you don't get strong engagement on something you feel strongly about, who cares? You'll get strong engagement at some point later on some different thing. But
Right, right.
that's what my channel basically is. It looks really random, but if you think of it more from the perspective of what every 2 months I've had in my mind and what I've wanted to make videos about, it does make sense. It's sometimes it's long running series, sometimes it's one off videos, and it'll grow as I grow. And
Sure.
I guess the trends will be more apparent in what 2-3 years, I guess.
At the beginning, before we started recording, your original idea was for me to maybe show you a couple of tunes that would, be a bit of like, I don't want to show you the most outright heavy stuff because I'm not sure that would help straight away. I can spend hours just sending you that stuff, but we're trying to ease Timber in here and just give him a bit of flavor for the ways in which this new development of the kind of music that we love and which we're talking about can be a bit more accessible. Ultimately, that is what we want to provide a bit of a segue, a bit of a gateway into maybe one day getting to that Skrillex level of appreciation, which we know you're all going to get to at some point. Don't worry, we'll get you there. This guy, he's waiting for you. He's waiting on you. He's
He
waiting on
is.
you.
He has a seductive look in that picture as well.
Yeah, very much so. Honestly, like, I wonder if he's watched your video or if he will ever watch it at some point. I mean,
I
it's a
feel
big
bad.
video. It's got his
I
name in the
feel
title.
bad if this is the thing that I might feel the worst about. I would hate for Skrillex to see my video
Yeah, what would
because
you
I
say
know
to him? What would you say to him if you saw
I
him, he
know
was
that
like,
he's a nice guy. He's a very timid, nice dude. And like again, it's like his name obviously served a very good function baiting people into watching my video. And a little bit about him. It is quite a lot about him. But I know that Skrillex is a nice guy, so I hate the thought of Skrillex sitting there watching my video and feeling sad. I would hope he's beyond that, but I know he's very sensitive. And so yeah, if he does, I mean, I would hope that he knows it's all in sort of subjective opinion world. The conclusion that I come to at the end, I was trying to say people hate on him, but it's not really him. It's the development of a scene. But whether that, I don't know if that, don't know if that hits when I'm also saying his music's trash. So, yeah, I do hope if he does watch it, he knows it's like not personal and he doesn't get too upset by it. Really.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think he, I think he also strikes me as a very grounded person. You know, who kind of knows the industry, knows what can kind of be flung his way, and he's probably read and knows about all the articles that were said and written about him in the past and bashing him and whatnot. So I think there's a definite degree to which he'll be used to it already. So
Yeah,
it
like
is
if
what
you're
it
gonna be
is.
on the phone to Dead Mouse, like, oh my god, Dead Mouse, there's a video. Oh,
Imagine if they were having a conversation about your video. Over the course of the interview or the video that we've done here, I've had a couple of good ideas on the track front. So I don't know quite how we're going to do this, but I'm going to load them up on my I think on my phone, and I'll listen to them, and then you listen to them as well, and then we'll press play at the same time, see what happens, and then I can get your thoughts. Just going to go for two tracks here. One of
sick.
them One of them is a style of music called freeform bass,
All right.
which is a kind of like it's kind of like like a meld of experimental bass music and kind of deep bass, kind of deep dubstep, kind of modern dubstep. It's a bit of a fusion of that. Got a bit of a trap
Mm.
element to it as well. And yeah, I think that would be quite a good way of appreciating a bit of a more modern, more overtly bassier development of the kind of deep feeling music that you love, like the original form of dubstep, just unleashed in a bit more of a modern way.
I'm excited, fam.
This track is called Arrival by Peekaboo. No pressure or anything, but if there is a little reaction or a little oh, then I might have to leave that in. But
Sure, sure, sure. So we can make comments during the track too.
absolutely. Okay, three, two, one, play.
I'm putting you in command of the spaceship.
Yeah, this is sounding good already. To be fair, like just loading up his printer. Oh my god, I can't believe how much work he's put into this intro. Jesus Christ. Oh my god, yes. This is sick. No, this is sick, fam. Yeah. This is the stuff I like. This is just like the stuff I like. Yeah, it's hard. I love the rim shot.
Yeah, unbelievable. What do you make of that overall?
That was sick. That was so sick. Yeah, dude. Like that is. I mean, it's not like I don't know. For me, that's just like the music I listen to. I love like so saw waves and really like razor sharp these ones that are quite low tone and like they sit sort of underneath a track and they sort of drone over onto like the next beat. Like we have a lot of that in grime. And we have a lot of that in like a lot of these UK sounds that like I'm really into. I loved how tight the drums were. Kind of reminds me of like Hudmo, sort of like 2010, 2011, like that's like Seabat sort of like tunes. Yeah, it's really sick. It's really sick. Like I think that, so yeah, when I say like the LA beat stuff, I like when it goes into that territory. This is when I like it. It's like it kind of unleashes tension and then sort of like has these like tight sort of trap like pullbacks to it. Which I think is like really, really sick. Yeah, I this artist, I don't know, is this a dubstep artist?
Well, I mean, he's made dubstep before. He's made trap. This kind of freeform bass thing is like kind of become, well, for me, he's like mile and away the best person to have done it. Very
It's
much
hard as fuck.
bringing it
It's hard as
into the
fuck.
bass mainstream. Yeah. I mean, I love it. It's like when you get bass that fat, but it's so clean, like the whole sound overall as well. It's
Yeah,
difficult
yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
right, but yeah, very much, very much.
This is it. It's like the stepping on the pedal after you've unleashed it. Like I think that's the balance that I really, really, really enjoy. People have got it down. I think that's a lot of that's what a lot of EPROM stuff's like as well.
This final one before we wrap up here, going to go for something a bit heavier, but it has got,
Scene.
it's not quite like overblown spaceship, intergalactic, all that kind of stuff, but it is more full on. And this is like for
Yeah.
me one of the quintessential rhythm tunes of the modern era. You know, the more modern era of rhythm. This
Same.
one definitely sticks out as like very much a yeah, just like a top representation of the genre. And I think what in many ways dubstep has become from around 2017 or so. And this tune is called Duel by Akeos. So that is Akeos.
Akeos and Jub. It's a
And
collab.
Jub, the man Jub. Okay,
Jub.
so yeah,
Satisfied name.
3, 2, 1, play.
I challenge you.
I have heard this genre before. I recognize this genre.
I challenge you.
To be fair, like, not mad at that. Like, it's cool. It's the swung rhythms. I guess like it's not a standard. I don't know what you'd call it. Like when it's not swung. It's not like a standard like. It kind of like
Right, yeah. Yeah, I get you.
each beat hangs a little bit behind, like where it should, which is really, really cool. I think yeah, I've not got, to be honest with this, I get it. It's part of the new school of like rhythm, dubstep, what have you. But it's actually, it doesn't feel too far away from a lot of the stuff that we were listening to. Like when I think at the start of like when the dubstep started getting harder. Didn't Jakes have something to do with the start? Like I think a lot of rhythm heads talk about
Yeah.
Jakes
Yeah.
as being like his tunes are like an early sort of iteration of it, and they do. Yeah, you can kind of see that. It's because they've got a really, really like alien noise, and it stays pretty constant. But then they'll keep warping it with phasers or whatever they're doing over the course of the track. It gets like, so it's like it's just a feel with each like little mini drop. It's like, oh, we're gonna turn it, we're gonna crank it up.
It's a
And then with
little
the
bit,
one, it's
yeah.
like, yeah, it's like gonna keep making it like more squidgy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. I mean, if I heard that in a club, I'd be like,
But yeah, I think that's been a great chat. Is there anything that you anything more that you want to say or that you want to kind of get off your chest quickly at the end here, just to kind of wrap up on this video?
no, just peace and love. Keep listening to what you like.
Mm,
Let's leave the world a better place than it was when we found it.
I love that. Absolutely. And yeah, I think that, you know, Timbah I don't know if he's going to be doing any dubstep videos soon or anything. If he's going to be going down the politics route in his next video or the culture thing, I don't want to. I don't know if I do want to ask you what you are doing next, because that might just be for you, and you might want to just reveal it when it comes out. I imagine that's your thing, because you work so long on a video, and then you just want to kind of spring that surprise on people when it comes out, and for them to be like, oh fuck yeah, I got to watch that.
I'm a
Unless you do want to say,
mysterious lurker. You got that right. Mysterious lurker would be my, if there was a YouTube, like different classes of YouTubers, like mysterious lurker who pops out. And it's like, bam, it's a fucking hour-long video. See you in 3 months.
very good, very very good. But yeah, I mean, definitely go and check out his channel. Fantastic content. Again, like I said earlier, is a mix of commentary, imagery, different kinds of media, and just the way it's cut, the presentation of the ideas and opinions, just everything about it, just top stuff.
Safe
Yeah,
dog.
go over to his channel, check it out. And also, I imagine there'll be maybe potentially a few people who have watched your video and who are coming across my channel for the first time. So if you do have even a slight interest in the more modern forms of not only dubstep but different kinds of bass music, like your drum and bass, your trap, different kinds of house, all sorts, then yeah, I do reviews and I do top fives, top tens, opinion pieces, um, family videos as well, which are good fun. Recommend checking those out. But yeah, I do all sorts. And if this is your first time on the Nawtystep channel, then yeah, check it out, see if it's your thing, watch a couple of videos, and yeah, would appreciate the like, the subscribe, all that shit, notification bell. You just got to do it. You just got to do it at the end of the video, don't you?
Mate, you got to do that. You got to earn that bread.
Thank you so much for coming on and kind of giving your 2 cents, I suppose, on your own video and how it's been received, and just how you're feeling about it now, and yeah, just how your kind of viewpoint on the whole thing, the experience of it as the person who made the video has changed and whatnot. And yeah, I think I've loved hearing you talk about it, and I'm sure many other people watching the video, followers of your channel and also of my channel, will definitely agree. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on and having a chat.
Thank you as well, Connor. It's been a pleasure, man.
Peace, and see all of you legends in the next one.